Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons & Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And a big thank you to our good friends over at Critical Failures for allowing us to be part of their live stream game every Wednesday night. Check us out. The links to both of those is in the description in case you would like to join the Patreon or join us on Critical Failures. With all that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about the HADOZEE. So the HADOZEE are from spelljammers, so they're not a normal race on the normal world of Toril. You do have to go into space to kind of see them. That being one part of their uniqueness, they did have a lot of controversy when they've come out because of their history, and it was conceived that it was a nod to racism. The main thing being they are simian people, they're ape-like people, and they were enslaved for a huge portion of their history. A lot of species in Dungeons & Dragons are either slavers or they have been enslaved and broke free. I'm not sure what exactly they've done after that. I kind of just stopped paying attention to it after a few really months have passed since Spelljammer came out. It might even be years now. But it wasn't the main intention, but there are a lot of other species that do follow suit in the same thing. A lot of the other races have been considered to be characters and reflections of poor stereotypes of certain people throughout their release, and their current alliterations have still carried that burden. That's not the point of this video. I actually happen to think they're actually really cool. So I just wanted to address that and acknowledge the fact that there was a big controversy about it. And we don't tolerate any kind of ideas or mentalities that kind of thing is okay in any way, shape, or form, especially not in a recreational activity that's supposed to be about enjoying a game with your friends. So with that already said and done, the HADOZEE do have a cool kind of idea behind them. I tend to tweak their artwork for my own purposes, but I'll get into that when I explain some of their abilities. But the HADOZEE do have a little bit of flavor text I'd like to read. The HADOZEE's progenitors were mammals no bigger than house cats. Hunted by larger natural predators, they took to the trees and evolved wing-like flaps that enabled them to glide from branch to branch. Kind of like flying squirrels. You kind of get that kind of a feel for them. Today, HADOZEEs are sapient, bipedal beings eager to leave behind their fearsome predators of their homeworld and explore other worlds. In addition to being natural climbers, HADOZEEs have feet that are dexterous as their hands, even to the extent of having opposable thumbs. Membranes of the skin hang loosely from their arms and legs. When stretched taut, these membranes enable HADOZEEs to glide. HADOZEEs wrap these rings around themselves to keep themselves warm. They're kind of like it's kind of like a bat also. It's a very unique kind of structure, which is what makes their art very strange. Whenever I play HADOZEE, I tend to find artwork that is more like kind of like Planet of the Apes kind of in fantasy. Like that's kind of the stuff that I like when I play HADOZEE. I think that it feels better than to have just these bizarre flaps going on. I just think it's hard to wear clothes with that. It seems very strange, and especially considering armors and things like that, it just seems like a difficult thing. So I kind of just negotiated that if I'm going to use this glide, what I'm going to do is I kind of just like unzip the sides and it kind of just falls out, and other than that I can kind of just wrap it around my back, or it kind of wraps around my body in such a way for it to fit that way, and then I can use that glide ability and just kind of tie it back up, I guess. I don't often use the glide ability, but I really should take more advantage of it. That again comes a little further into play depending on what kind of game you're running. The HADOZEE are very, very cool. I think they're fun. One thing I should note, I happen to hate feet. So the idea of paying attention to feet is just not a great thing But HADOZEE again have opposable thumbs on their feet, so it's kind of like hands, which is just as gross. But I felt like it's important to note. If you're on my side, you're not alone. You are considered a humanoid. You can be medium or small. You choose the size when you select this race. Again, I would always choose medium. But if you're being a smaller race, you can really be kind of like a flying squirrel. So consider what you like and go with that. You have a walking speed of 30 feet, and you have a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. If you've ever had spider climb cast onto you, played a Dampier, had any item that gave you the ability to spider climb, you really appreciate how great it is to climb walls. It becomes a lot of fun. You do gain the glide ability, as I mentioned before. When you fall at least 10 feet above the ground, you can use your reaction to extend your skin membranes to glide horizontally a number of feet equal to your walking speed, and you take 0 damage from the fall. You determine the direction of the glide. Whether or not you continuously, how well you can turn it and cause the glide to be more beneficial as your conscious movement, kind of depends on your circumstance. I imagine it'd be a little difficult. You can't just make a right turn, but that's just dependent on how you want to run your game and how you and your DM work that out. But again, I tend to take advantage of the climbing more often. Using that glide is definitely something I should really get into, as opposed to just leaping like a crazy person off the ceiling. But that could be a lot of fun to really get involved with. You also gain an ability called HADOZEE Dodge. The magic that runs in your veins heightens your natural defenses. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to roll a d6, add your proficiency bonus to the number rolled, and reduce the damage you take by an amount equal to the total. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all uses when you finish a long rest. This is the kind of class that I would lean towards Gish builds, especially ones that might have concentration spells. And the reason why I say this is because the best way to apply HADOZEE Dodge is to maintain concentration. That way, it's kind of specified when you're going to use it, so the limited times of a proficiency bonus does kind of work in tandem with what you're doing. Because you won't always be throwing out concentration spells, but when you do, it'll be important for you to keep them going. I think they make great warlocks. I like the idea of maybe if you're playing in a game where HADOZEE aren't from that world and you're not playing spelljammer, you could very easily be a HADOZEE warlock who picked up or encountered a magical item, and that item gave you sentience. And now you're this adventurer because you've been cast out from your society because you're clearly dangerous and bizarre and strange to them. And that's a great way to play this kind of character. Again, that's just kind of my own personal preference. And then finally, with languages, you can read and write Common and one other language that you and your DM agree is appropriate. I would put something that you would speak, at least be able to speak to any kind of ape or simian-like creatures, because that's who you are, you know what I mean? So I think that makes sense, but again, very rarely are you using different languages other than Common unless it's very specified RP moments, which are usually kind of directed at certain kind of characters. Like if you run into a whole bunch of situations with dragons and you have a dragonborn, like I expect the dragonborn to kind of take the front of that kind of conversations. Or if you're, you encounter an abyssal demon that's not attacking you immediately, whoever speaks abyssal, I expect you to take that conversation. But that's just, how I would see it. But a lot of the times, Common is basically the only language you really need to know, unless you're like a wizard, which you should know multiple languages because deciphering magic spells are all written in Draconic. So having that language at least is almost a necessity for a wizard if you're playing closer to the core knowledge of the world. I think the HADOZEE are pretty cool. If you want inspiration, definitely check out any of the Planet of the Apes movies. The way they kind of just act, especially in the newer ones, is a great inspiration for the characters. You can gain like a humanistic connection to them. You want some of them to succeed. You want some of them to fail. You sympathize with some of them really, really well, and you're like, you feel that difference in character and who they are, and it's a great representation of that. That being said, again, I like the idea of hiding the membrane because I just don't like the way it looks aesthetically. I wish kind of maybe it was something that can kind of be pulled out or something. But that being said, it's workable. It's just artwork. I think most DMs wouldn't mind too much. And I think they're cool. I think they're great. I think they're a lot of fun to play. It's hard to play them and not act like an ape or a chimpanzee or something like that. But part of the reason why I say watch Planet of the Apes is it takes away from so much of that, and you show their growth of from where they were as just animals into what they are at the ends of the movie once they've all been infected with the virus. And that shows you kind of where my mindset is for how they act and how they should be. I think it's very cool. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a shame that they had such a negative controversy to it. It's a shame that our world kind of had that. But that aside, definitely play one. They're cool. They're really enjoyable. And with all that said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it this far, definitely hit like and subscribe. A big thank you to all Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And a big thank you to our good friends at Critical Failures for letting us be part of their live stream game. The links to both of those is in the description. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.